Captain James Harrison stood at the viewport of the UES Intrepid, watching distant stars blur past as his ship cut through hyperspace. 20 years in Earth's Space Force hadn't prepared him for this moment. The emergency transmission from an unknown vessel had pulled them off their regular patrol route, but something about it felt wrong. "Signal holding steady, Captain," Lieutenant Reeves reported from her communications station. "Unknown ship maintaining position just outside the Arcturus system." Harrison nodded, his weathered face reflecting in the transparent steel. At 45, he'd earned every gray hair threading through his dark temples. "Time to intercept?" 3 minutes, sir." The bridge crew worked in practiced silence as the Intrepid dropped out of hyperspace. A sleek vessel hung against the starfield, its pearl-white hull unlike anything in human or known alien design. No weapon signatures, but its energy readings were off the charts. "We're being hailed," Reeves announced. On screen. The view screen illuminated with a face that made Harrison's breath catch. Humanoid, but with an otherworldly beauty, silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light, and eyes like captured galaxies. She wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes, though they were torn and stained. "I am Princess Vena of the Celestian Empire," she said, her voice carrying both authority and desperation. "I seek asylum from those who would destroy everything my people stand for." Harrison studied her carefully. The Celestians were legends, an advanced species that had vanished from known space centuries ago. "This is Captain James Harrison of the Earth vessel Intrepid." "What kind of danger are you in, Your Highness?" "The kind that threatens every peaceful species in this sector." "The Galactic Council is not what it seems, Captain." Her image flickered as something rocked her ship. "They're here. Please, I have proof of their plans. If you don't help me, billions will die." Harrison's tactical display lit up as 3 warships dropped out of hyperspace, Council peacekeepers. Their weapons were already charging. "Captain Harrison," a cold voice cut in. "This is Enforcer Drax of the Galactic Council. The fugitive aboard that vessel is wanted for crimes against peace. Stand down and prepare to withdraw." Harrison's mind raced. The Council had been humanity's primary contact with galactic civilization for decades. But something in Princess Vena's eyes spoke of truth and terror. "Your Highness," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Can you dock with our port airlock?" "Harrison," Drax growled. "This is your final warning. The Council's judgment is not to be questioned." The Princess's ship was already moving, elegant despite its obvious damage. Harrison turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Shields at maximum." "Sir." His first officer stepped forward. "That's the Galactic Council out there. If we do this." "I know." Harrison watched as the Council ships moved to firing positions. "Sometimes you have to choose between following orders and following your conscience. Helm, put us between those ships and the Princess. Weapons, target their engines only." The next few minutes were chaos. The Intrepid's shield screamed under the Council ship's assault, but Harrison's crew performed brilliantly. They bought enough time for Princess Vena to dock, and when they finally jumped to hyperspace, only minor damage had been sustained. Harrison met the Princess in Medical Bay, where doctors confirmed she was injured but stable. Up close, her ethereal beauty was even more striking, but it was the strength in her bearing that caught his attention. "Why did you help me?" she asked softly. "Because something about this feels wrong," Harrison replied. "The Council preaches peace while building the galaxy's largest military force. They claim to protect freedom while demanding absolute obedience. And now they're hunting a princess from a species I thought was mythical." Vena's smile was sad but determined. "The Celestians didn't vanish, Captain. We went into hiding when we discovered the Council's true nature. They're not maintaining peace, they're preparing for absolute control. And they've developed weapons that could enslave or destroy any species that resists. Harrison leaned against the medical bay wall, feeling the weight of his decision. You mentioned proof? She held out a small crystal. Everything is here. The Council's real plans, the weapons they're developing, the species they've already subjugated. Help me expose this, Captain Harrison, and we might save not just my people, but yours as well. Looking into her star-filled eyes, Harrison knew his life would never be the same. But as their fingers brushed while taking the crystal, he felt something else, a connection that transcended species and duty. Call me James, he said quietly. I think we're going to be working together for a while. The Intrepid fled deeper into unexplored space, carrying its crew toward an uncertain future. Behind them, Council ships would already be mobilizing. Ahead lay the greatest challenge of Harrison's life, and perhaps the key to saving civilization itself. As he left Medical Bay, Harrison caught his reflection in a window. The man looking back wasn't just a Space Force captain anymore. He was a defector, a rebel, and possibly a traitor to everything he'd sworn to protect. But for the first time in years, he felt truly righteous about his mission. The adventure was just beginning. The observation deck of the Intrepid was silent except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Princess Venna stood before the vast window, her silvery skin reflecting the starlight as she traced constellations unknown to human charts. Captain Harrison watched her from the doorway, struck by how she could appear both powerful and vulnerable in the same moment. Your crew adapts well to being fugitives, she said without turning. I've never seen humans up close before. Your resilience is remarkable. Harrison moved to stand beside her. We're good at facing impossible odds. It's practically a human specialty. He gestured to the crystal she'd given him, now decoded and displaying its secrets on nearby screens. Though these odds are worse than I imagined. The data had revealed a systematic plan by the Council to dominate all known species. They had developed a network of psychic amplifiers, capable of broadcasting control signals across entire sectors. The Celestians had been the first to discover this, and their resistance had led to their apparent extinction. The Council fears humanity's potential, Venna said, turning to face him. Your species advances quickly, adapts rapidly. In a few centuries, you could rival their power. They won't allow that. Then we'll need allies. Harrison pulled up a galactic map. Your crystal mentioned other resistance movements. If we can unite them. It won't be easy. The Council has spies everywhere. Trust is a rare commodity in these times. Her galaxy-filled eyes met his. Why do you trust me, James? The use of his first name sent an unexpected warmth through his chest. I've spent my career following orders, believing in the system. But something always felt off about the Council's protection. When I saw you willing to die for the truth, I knew which side I needed to be on. A proximity alarm shattered the moment. Lieutenant Reeves's voice came over the intercom, Captain to the bridge. We've got multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Harrison and Venna raced to the bridge. The tactical display showed 5 vessels surrounding them, but they weren't Council ships. Pirates, Venna breathed. The Crimson Cartel. They must have tracked our energy signature. Weapons charged, Tactical Officer Wong reported. They're hailing us. The view screen activated to show a scarred Drachnid, his reptilian features twisted in a cruel smile. Well, well. A human warship and a Celestian biosignature. The Council's bounty on you just doubled. Harrison stepped forward. We can pay better than the Council. We have information they don't want released. Information is worthless if we're dead, the pirate leader laughed. And the Council pays in advanced weapons. Fire when ready. The Intrepid shuddered under the first barrage. Harrison gripped his command chair. Evasive pattern Delta. Wong, target their weapon systems. But before they could return fire, Venna placed her hands on the tactical console. Her skin began to glow with an intense inner light. My people were peacekeepers, but we were never defenseless. Energy coursed from her body into the ship's systems. The Intrepid's shields suddenly blazed with new power, and its weapons fired with unprecedented accuracy. 2 pirate ships lost weapons in the first volley. Celestian battle meditation, Venna explained through gritted teeth. I can enhance your crew's natural abilities, but not for long. Harrison watched in awe as his ship moved with impossible grace, their counterattack driving the pirates back. But he could see the strain on Venna's face. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship's engines. The combined assault proved too much. The pirate vessels retreated, jumping to hyperspace with their leader cursing them in 6 languages. Venna collapsed as soon as the danger passed. Harrison caught her before she hit the deck, cradling her carefully. Medical team to the bridge. I'm all right, she whispered, her skin cooling under his touch. Just drained. Battle meditation takes much energy. That was incredible, Harrison said softly, still holding her. But never risk yourself like that again. We need you too much. He paused, then added more quietly, I need you. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. But before either could speak, Lieutenant Reeves interrupted, Sir, I'm picking up a coded transmission. It's from the Resistance on Proxima 3. They want to meet. Harrison helped Venna to her feet, though neither moved away immediately. Send them our acceptance. But first, plot a course through the Denari Nebula, we'll lose any pursuit in the radiation. The resistance is gathering, Venna said, her strength returning. But the Council won't sit idle. They'll send their best hunters after us now. Harrison nodded grimly. Then we better make sure this alliance is worth dying for. He turned to his crew. Set course for Proxima 3. And everyone, thank you for standing with us. What we're doing here, it's bigger than any one species. It's about the right of all beings to live free. As the Intrepid entered hyperspace, Harrison felt Venna's hand slip into his. Together they watched the stars streak past, neither speaking of the growing feelings between them, both knowing that the coming days would test every bond they'd formed. The revolution was taking shape, but so was something else, something neither a human captain nor a Celestian princess had expected to find in the midst of an interstellar conspiracy, hope, not just for their cause, but for a future they might share. The underground base on Proxima 3 hummed with activity as representatives from a dozen resistance movements gathered in the war room. Captain Harrison stood at the head of the circular table, Princess Venna at his side, as holographic displays showed the Council's growing military presence across the sector. The Council's fleet movements make no sense, said General Roland, a grizzled veteran of the Martian Defense Force. They're leaving key strategic positions unguarded while fortifying this remote sector. He pointed to a cluster of stars near the galactic core. Venna's eyes narrowed. Unless they're protecting something. She manipulated the holographic controls, overlaying the crystal's data with current fleet positions. There. The Thanatos system. Harrison leaned forward, studying the pattern. What's in Thanatos? Nothing, according to official records, said Commander Thura, a tall Andorian whose blue skin seemed to shimmer in the holographic light. But our scouts report massive energy signatures. Something big enough to require a quarter of the Council's fleet to protect it. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared through the base. Lieutenant Reeves burst into the war room. Multiple Council warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're launching dropships. Impossible, Roland growled. This location was secure. Someone had to have dash. A plasma blast tore through the war room's ceiling. Through the smoke, Council shock troops rappelled down, their black armor absorbing weapon fire as resistance fighters scrambled for cover. This way. Venna grabbed Harrison's arm, pulling him toward a concealed exit. But as they ran, Harrison noticed Commander Thura speaking into a hidden communicator, her expression cold and triumphant. "It was you," he snarled, drawing his sidearm. But Thura was already moving, her form shifting like liquid metal. "A shapeshifter. The Council sends its regards," she smiled, her voice distorting. Then she vanished into the chaos. Harrison and Venna fought their way through corridors rapidly filling with smoke and weapons fire. They found Roland organizing a counterattack with surviving resistance members. "Get to your ship," the general ordered, firing at pursuing troops. "The princess must survive. We'll hold them here." Harrison started, but the general cut him off. "That's an order, Captain. The information in her head is worth more than all of us. Go." They ran. Behind them, Roland's voice rang out over the gunfire, "For Earth. For freedom." Then came an explosion that shook the entire base. The Intrepid was already powering up when they reached the landing bay, Lieutenant Reeves having prepared for emergency departure. As they lifted off, Harrison watched Council forces swarming the burning base. Another resistance cell destroyed. More good people lost. Once in hyperspace, Venna collapsed into a chair on the bridge, her usual glow dimmed by exhaustion and grief. "I should have sensed the shapeshifter," she whispered. "My people once had that ability, before." She trailed off, pain crossing her features. Harrison knelt beside her. "Before what?" She met his eyes, and he saw centuries of suffering in their depths. "The Council didn't just drive my people into hiding, James. They stole from us. The psychic amplifiers they're building, the technology was taken from the Celestians. They twisted our gifts of healing and communion into weapons of control and domination. And now they're building something even worse in the Thanatos system," Harrison said grimly. Venna nodded. "A device large enough to affect not just planets, but entire sectors. If they activate it." She placed her hand over his. "James, there's something else. Something I haven't told you." But before she could continue, the ship lurched violently. Warning lights flashed across every console. Multiple hyperspace signatures. Reeves shouted. "They're pulling us out of hyperspace." The starfield resolved into normal space, and Harrison's blood ran cold. They were surrounded by Council dreadnoughts, their massive forms blocking every escape route. And at their center hung a space station unlike anything he'd ever seen, a vast crystalline structure that pulsed with familiar energy. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Commander Thura's voice came through their comm system. The culmination of centuries of Celestian knowledge, turned to its proper use. "And now, thanks to my tracking beacon, we have the last Celestian princess to help us activate it." Harrison looked at Venna, saw the terror and determination warring in her expression. Whatever secret she'd been about to share would have to wait. Right now, they faced not just their own doom, but potentially the enslavement of every free being in the galaxy. "Options?" he asked his crew. Lieutenant Wong managed a grim smile. "We still have those experimental torpedoes from Earth R&D, sir. Never got a chance to test them." Harrison returned the smile. "No time like the present." He turned to Venna, who had risen to stand beside him, her inner light beginning to glow brighter. "Ready to show them why they should fear humans and Celestians working together?" She took his hand, and power surged through the ship's systems. Together, she agreed. The battle for the fate of the galaxy was about to begin. The Intrepid's shields flared under the concentrated fire of 3 Council dreadnoughts. Inside the bridge, sparks flew from overloading consoles as Captain Harrison barked orders over the chaos. "Wong, target those experimental torpedoes on the station's main reactor. Reeves, send out a distress call on all resistance frequencies." He turned to Venna, who stood with her hands pressed against the tactical interface, her silver skin blazing with power. "Can you hold the battle meditation?" "As long as necessary," she said through gritted teeth. Her enhancement of the crew's abilities was the only thing keeping them alive against such overwhelming odds. The massive crystalline station loomed before them, its surface crackling with familiar energy, Celestian technology perverted into a weapon of mass control. Commander Thura's voice taunted them over the comm, "Surrender the princess, and perhaps we'll let your crew serve the council willingly rather than as mindless drones." Harrison's response was to launch their first experimental torpedo. The prototype weapon corkscrewed through space, its unstable warhead leaving a trail of quantum distortions. 2 council ships moved to intercept, but Vena's battle meditation guided the torpedo through the gaps in their defense. The explosion rocked the station, but the damage was superficial. "Their shields are too strong," Wong reported. "We'd need at least 3 direct hits to breach them." "We won't survive that long under this assault," Reeves added, her fingers flying over her console. "Wait," picking up multiple hyperspace signatures. Space rippled as ships began appearing around them. But these weren't council vessels. Leading the flotilla was a scarred and battered cruiser that Harrison recognized instantly. "This is General Roland of the Free Planets Alliance," a familiar voice broadcasted. "Sorry we're late to the party. Had to gather some friends first." Behind Roland's ship came vessels of every description, resistance fighters, reformed pirates, merchant ships converted to warfare. The survivors and allies they'd gathered across their journey, answering humanity's call for aid. "All ships, concentrate fire on those dreadnoughts," Roland commanded. "The Intrepid has a shot at the station, give them cover." The space around them erupted into the largest battle Harrison had ever witnessed. Council ships found themselves swarmed by smaller, more agile vessels. Roland's cruiser engaged a dreadnought at point-blank range, trading devastating broadsides. But then Vena stumbled, her glow flickering. "James," she gasped. "The station, it's powering up. I can feel it reaching for mines." Harrison caught her before she fell. "Wong, status of those torpedoes?" "2 left, sir. But we'd need their shields down first." Harrison looked at Vena, saw the pain in her star-filled eyes as she fought against the station's growing psychic pressure. She met his gaze with sudden resolution. "I can create an opening," she said. "But you need to know the truth first." She pressed her hand to his cheek, and in that touch shared a flood of memories. He saw the Celestians at the height of their power, watched as they developed their psychic technologies to heal and connect worlds. Saw the Council's betrayal, the theft of their knowledge. And understood at last why Vena was so crucial. She carried within her the key to either powering or destroying all Celestian technology. "My life force," she whispered. "Properly channeled, it can overload the station's systems." "But James..." She didn't need to finish. He understood the cost. "No," he said firmly. "We'll find another way." A blast rocked the ship. On the view screen, they watched Roland's cruiser take a critical hit, escape pods launching from its burning hull. The station's influence was growing stronger, some of the resistance ships were already turning against their allies. Vena stood straighter, her determination outshining her exhaustion. "My people hid when we should have fought. I won't make that mistake again." She kissed him then, a kiss that contained centuries of longing and the promise of what might have been. "Thank you for showing me that love is worth any sacrifice." Before Harrison could stop her, she pressed her hands against the ship's main power coupling. Energy exploded from her body, surging through the Intrepid systems. The ship's shields transformed into pure Celestian energy, burning so bright it blinded sensors across the battlefield. "Shields down on both the station and our ship," Wong reported in awe. "It's now or never, sir." Harrison felt tears on his cheeks as he gave the order. "Launch everything we have." The final 2 torpedoes streaked across space, their warheads enhanced by Vena's power. They struck the station's reactor core just as its psychic weapon reached full charge. The resulting explosion lit up the sector like a newborn sun. When the light faded, the station was gone. The Council ships, their crews freed from psychic influence, were retreating in disarray. They had won. But victory had come at an unthinkable price. Vena lay motionless in Harrison's arms, her silver skin dim and cold. He held her close, his voice breaking, "I can't lose you. Not when I've finally found you." Then, impossibly, a faint glow flickered beneath her skin. The medical bay of the Intrepid had been converted into something between a hospital room and a shrine. Banks of Earth medical equipment hummed alongside salvaged Celestian healing crystals, all focused on the still form of Princess Vena. Her silver skin held only the faintest glimmer of life, but it was enough to keep hope alive. Captain Harrison hadn't left her side in 3 days. He sat holding her hand, monitoring every tiny fluctuation in her life signs. The victory over the Council had sparked revolutions across the galaxy, but right now, his universe had shrunk to this room and its precious occupant. "The latest reports from the Resistance fleet, sir," Lieutenant Reeves said softly from the doorway. "The Council's forces are in full retreat. General Roland survived, he's coordinating the liberation of 3 more systems. And..." She hesitated, "We're detecting unusual energy readings from deep space. Something's coming." Harrison nodded but didn't move from his vigil. "Have Wong keep the weapons hot, just in case. We didn't come this far to dash." A surge of energy pulsed through the ship's sensors. The space outside the Intrepid's viewport shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by ships unlike anything they'd ever seen. They were organic-looking vessels that seemed to be made of living crystal, each one larger than a Council dreadnought. "By all the stars," Reeves breathed. "Sir, they're Celestian ships. The Lost Fleet." Before Harrison could respond, a voice echoed in everyone's minds, not invasive like the Council's technology, but gentle and clear, "We felt the sacrifice of our princess. We could no longer hide while she fought our battles." The largest ship, a magnificent vessel that shone like a constellation given form, moved alongside the Intrepid. In the medical bay, the Celestian healing crystals began to pulse in harmony with the great ship's energy. Vena's body lifted slightly off the bed, surrounded by a cocoon of light. Harrison tried to maintain his grip on her hand but was gently pushed back by the energy field. The voice spoke again, "Her sacrifice awakened what we had forgotten, that there are things worth fighting for. Worth dying for. Worth living for." Power flowed from the Celestian ships into the medical bay. Harrison watched in awe as color returned to Vena's skin, the starlight in her eyes rekindling. She took a sudden deep breath and opened her eyes. "James," she whispered. He was at her side instantly, helping her sit up. "I'm here. I never left." She smiled weakly. "My people, they came back." "We did more than come back, dear one," the voice said, now emanating from a tall figure that had materialized in the medical bay. The Celestian elder was similar to Vena in appearance but seemed to be made of living starlight. "We have returned to take our place in the galaxy again. And to right ancient wrongs." Over the next few weeks, as Vena regained her strength, the galaxy transformed. The Celestian fleet, combined with the Resistance forces, systematically dismantled the Council's remaining power structure. But instead of punishment, they offered healing. The psychic technology that had been perverted for control was restored to its original purpose, fostering understanding between species. Harrison and Vena stood on the observation deck of the Intrepid, watching as the last Council fortress was transformed into a center for interspecies cooperation. Their hands were intertwined, her glow mixing with his warmth. "The Elder Council has asked me to lead the diplomatic initiative," Vena said. "To help forge a new alliance, one based on mutual respect rather than domination." She turned to face him. They also said that our connection is unprecedented. No Celestian and human have ever bonded this way before. Harrison smiled. Are they opposed? Quite the opposite. They believe it's proof of what we can achieve together. A symbol of the future we're building. She moved closer to him. But it's not just symbolic for us, is it? No, he said softly, drawing her into his arms. This is real. As real as anything in the universe. Their kiss was witnessed by the stars themselves, a promise of things to come. The Intrepid would continue its mission, but now as a ship of exploration rather than war. Harrison remained its captain, with Venna serving as both diplomatic liaison and, more importantly, his partner in all things. Together, they would help guide humanity and Celestians into a new age of cooperation and discovery. The Council's reign of control was over, replaced by a true alliance of free peoples. And while challenges would always arise, they would face them as they had faced everything else, together. In the end, it wasn't just about saving the galaxy. It was about proving that love could bridge the gap between stars, between species, between souls. That in the vast darkness of space, connection was the greatest power of all. As the Intrepid set course for new adventures, Harrison and Venna stood at its helm, their shared glow lighting the way forward. Behind them, human and Celestian ships flew in formation, a fleet of hope heading toward tomorrow. The storm had passed. The dawn of unity had begun.